How
Tell me
you
your
doing?
story. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Listen, I was listening to the gentleman, and I found it quite interesting that everyone goes through basically the same thing, but everybody don't talk about the same thing. One of the things that I found that the digital rectal exam had no effect on me because my prostate never ever showed any type of enlargement, any nodules, any lumps, or anything of that nature. It always remained smooth and normal size. However, what happened with me? Well, a little backstory. Both my brothers had prostate cancer, so it seemed like it was almost inevitable for me to get prostate cancer.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hibiscus Tea Cafe. I am Dr. Ludmilla, and I love to talk about all things health and wellness. So grab your favorite cup of tea and meet me at the cafe for another tea chat. All right. Thank you all for being here.
I want to thank you equally as much for pulling it together, because if there's nothing more that needs to take place around this subject matter, is that Black men need to have conversations about it.
Yes.
And you never know what one might say that may help another.
Yes. Yes.
We need to engage in this conversation as frequent as possible. As
Absolutely.
much as
Every day. It can't just be 1 month.
yeah. So thank you for pulling it together.
You're welcome. But it's also important for us as women to understand, right?
Yeah,
We
I
always
think.
do talk among each other, the men talk among each other, and we don't understand one another.
Well, here's the thing: women are. If a man is diagnosed, women in most cases is that significant other's first line of defense in terms of support.
Yes,
So she should be equally as knowledgeable of
I
her husband's situation as he is, if not more,
I
because
agree with that.
there may be times when she may have to make decisions pertaining to the situation. So
So true.
we got to give women high praise for
So,
being equally as involved.
well, I'm going to be involved.
Yeah.
But I truly
Yes.
want to thank all of you for being here. And it's a blessing that we can be here, that we can tell our stories. And I know from my past research, just in general, talking about things in the Black community, one of the things that I know that is effective in the Black community is storytelling, story sharing, and testimonies. And those will definitely hit home. So I really, really can't thank you enough for being here. One of the reasons that I believe that we need to talk about this is because we always talk about numbers. But I always say behind the numbers, there are faces, and the faces can tell the story better than the numbers. And for some people, the numbers are in place because we do need the numbers for fancy reports and things of that sort. But for us, we need to be on the ground in the community. And I do believe that in the community is where we can find our answers, not just in the reports. So I thank you for all you wonderful men, and let's get going. So I remember in 2003, I got a call from my sister and my dad and his wife that my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And at the time, he actually didn't want to tell us because he said he didn't want to bother the kids. He decided that he felt like the doctor had told him that it wasn't as bad. They had caught it right at the beginning, so it was nothing to worry about. But we were on the East Coast, we were in Maryland, and my sister was in New York. We immediately flew over. We were with my dad for the surgery, and everything went fine at that time. But the interesting thing to me was, and I got on my father's case for that, was that he didn't want to tell us because he didn't want to worry the kids. And the reason he didn't want to tell us was because the doctor had told him that if they do the surgery and they had immediately diagnosed, they knew at what stage he was going to be fine. But that stuck with me because I wondered at the time, I was actually in graduate school at Morgan State University. I was studying public health, and I was wondering how many men feel the same way, that they don't want to bother the children. And so as time went on, I thought about that. And I actually started thinking about it a lot as I was studying. But then time went on, we go into different directions. And I was fortunate enough to study public health. And so I just kept hearing these numbers, and I kept hearing about men being diagnosed with prostate cancer, but I didn't realize how serious it was until maybe a few years ago when I saw the actual statistics for African American men. I knew it was serious. Cancer is always serious, whether it's one or two or 1,000. It's serious, right? Nobody deserves to even have that. But I didn't realize how serious the numbers were for Black men. And then when I heard on the news that Martin Luther King's son had died at only 61 years of age, I was like, wow, we got to talk about this because I hear it in the community. And as I began talking to people in our community, we live in a 55 Black community, I kind of got the sense that, yeah, I have my prostate issues, but nothing really alarming. And so I got the sense that the men were sort of, I don't want to say accepting, but it was becoming something sort of a norm that, yeah, it's, at this age, yeah, I have prostate issues. And I started wondering what does that mean? And then the more I started sort of probing, I would hear not just one, but two or three. And if I was in a let's say in a group of 10 men, there were at least three or four who had the issues. And I thought this is what the numbers are saying.
Mhm.
And then I started reading the numbers again, and I was like, oh my goodness, out of the 30% of men who have prostate cancer, 67%, if not more, are among African American men. And then I thought, you know what? We got to talk about this. We can't be quiet about this. We got to talk about it. And so for me as a woman, I said, well, I don't know if my men want to talk to me about it. But then I thought, you know what? I'm married to one. I'm going to start talking to my husband because my husband had prostate issues as well. And through my husband, I was able to understand a little bit more about what it looks like when you go to the doctor, what it feels like, what a man feels like when he goes to the doctor, and what it feels like when they tell you something about your numbers. And so that's kind of the conversation that I started hearing, but just in bits and pieces. And I just wanted to hear from you all, what is the conversation like around your prostate health? Because we know women talk about their health, but we talk differently. So what is it that men talk about a prostate health that makes it either alarming or not so alarming? Or is it something that the doctor talks about first? And what does that say to you? And how does that make you feel? And how do you go to your family? Because I'm thinking back to my dad. He didn't want to tell us. And he didn't have just a high PSA level. He had prostate cancer. So I'm opening the floor up to you because I'm going to listen. I want you to talk to me. Talk to me, brothers. Talk to me.
Well, it's an interesting situation, and while attending a church in Maryland, I was scheduled to do a presentation on prostate health, and it was going to be that Saturday at Men's Fellowship. And I called my father that Friday and mentioned to him that I was doing this prostate presentation on the next day. And little did I know, my father was about to tell me of his situation, his encounter with an issue having to do with his prostate. But the say it's that almost unwillingness to share it, he almost explained it to me in tongues to whereas I couldn't really grasp what he was saying, but I know that now this presentation that I'm doing on tomorrow is not simply information on people, but now that my father was impacted by it in some way, shape, form, or fashion, that it's now personal.
Mhm.
So what I found out early on in terms of prostate health was that the blood test for your PSA and see what your level is one part of it, but the in order to make it complete and more comprehensive than just scratching the surface, the digital exam was essential. And the combination of the blood work, PSA, and the digital exam would give a, the individual as well as their urologist a real idea of where they are in terms of prostate health. So as I went on to share with my father, um, the digital exam is basically where the physician uses his finger or her finger with the glove and some lubricant and go through the anus and touches the prostate to find out whether or not it's smooth, because the enlargement of the prostate is, yes, we got an enlarged prostate, but if it's smooth, that's that's not a bad indication. It's when there are lumps in the prostate that's where, Houston, we've got a problem. And the thing of it is, men, a man, if confronted by a urologist to do this, oh man, I don't roll like that. Well, I said to my dad, I said, you know, Dad, a man has two options. He can either allow the doctor to do the digital exam, or he can allow the undertaker to do the digital exam. It's like, who do you want doing what they need to do? So right now, my middle brother has had some biopsies, and unfortunately, his PSA was 6 point something, and he's not, for what reason, he's not taking any medication. Um, and my baby brother had some issue as well. So obviously, my father, my two younger brothers. So I'm right in the middle of that. So prostate health is of major significance to me. Um, I've got an exam coming up on the 1st of October, and it's really been about, with me as my wife's caregiver and having a new uh, primary care physician. I'm about a year and a half from actually having the digital exam. So I'm definitely wanting to that's already on the chart for the 1st of October. And I need to have that, because I kind of don't know where I am. Um, Now my PSA, my last PSA was at 1.27. Now I'm taking finasteride, and what finasteride does, so that 1.27 is actually about 2.54. It shows you, it shows half of what it actually is. So that's 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 what the finasteride is for. So I'm looking forward to getting this checkup. I'll be doing some blood work later this week that will be for that meeting with my primary.
Thank you for sharing. I really, really appreciate that. Those were some very interesting details that we'll go into in a little bit. Bill, I see you shaking your head. Oh, Bill Battle, because we have some stuff to talk about. But I'd like to hear Patrick Taylor.
Hey, what's going on, fam? Once again, I want to thank you for inviting me to this discussion today. Just to tell you guys a little bit about myself, I was actually diagnosed with prostate cancer in January 2022. I've been getting annual physicals since I was probably, I don't know, maybe 48, probably before that, maybe 45 years old. I'm 61 now. But nonetheless, it came as a surprise to me. And the trigger was during that my exam in December, my PSA was 4.5. They say anything over 4, they want you to go see a urologist, and which I did. And guys, I'm telling you right now, it totally blew your boy away, man. It blew me away. Why? Because I consider myself to be a pretty healthy dude, doing all the right things and stuff like that. I'm like, yo, when he told me this, I'm like, bro, you need to check that chart. Make sure you got the right patient. You understand what I'm saying? But and that's not me being cocky and nothing, guys. That's just me being confident, man, because I believe in my Lord and Savior, man. So, but nonetheless, they gave me three choices. One was to get the prostate removed. The other one was to do a radiation, and the third one was what they call active surveillance. So I chose the lesser one, which was active surveillance, and I'll tell you guys why. But first and foremost, let me go back. I also went to the Cancer Treatment Center up there in Chicago. It's no longer called that, but nonetheless, because I wanted to get a second opinion about this as well, which I did. My wife and I, we went up there. But I chose the active surveillance because they said prostate cancer, it can be a very slow moving cancer. And they did a few other tests as well to check, I guess, to see how fast the cancer moved and stuff like that. So active surveillance, what that consists of, I go get my blood checked every 6 months. And if those numbers are fine, I don't have to do another biopsy for 3 to 5 years. And Samuel, one of the things you said is like, getting that the rectal exam. That's not something most brothers want to do, man. You understand what I'm saying? But it's a necessary evil. And I like the way you put that. You either let that guy do his thing or your undertaker going to do his thing. And what's even more uncomfortable is going to get a freaking biopsy. So, but guys, what I say, man, I did tell my family. I told my family right away because I felt as though it was something that they needed to do. But where am I now? I still work out consistently. Watch what I eat, and I'm not, when I say I watch what I eat, I watch it while it's on the plate as I'm putting it into my mouth. You did? No, but being in all seriousness, right? Just being more conscious about the things that I do, the intake and all that old stuff, man, and just changing some of the activities that I had. And then just keeping it a buck with you guys. I drink. I ain't no alcohol or nothing, but I drink. I cut down on the red meats, the porks and beefs and stuff like that. I don't smoke anything. I used to smoke earlier in my life. I stopped smoking, I don't know, back in 2006. But that's just to tell you a little bit about myself, man. And I don't know where you guys stand with it, family members. But if you have anybody that's dealing with it, obviously support's going to be a big thing. I feel like I'm blessed, although I do have prostate cancer, but I'm not in a position where, it's life threatening or anything like that. So I appreciate you giving me the floor. And yeah, that's all I got.
Well, I want to say I'm really proud of you. And just as a little backdrop here, Patrick is my husband's cousin. And the way that Patrick and I started talking about it was actually last December. My mother-in-law passed away. And when my husband and I were talking to my sister-in-law, she was saying that there were some cousins who had prostate cancer. And again, I thought about this idea of, okay, but that's not normal. We're at a funeral, but my mother-in-law is gone, but the brothers are still here. So what do we do? And, I just couldn't let it go. And I told my husband, I said, I need to talk to your cousins. And because I know I've talked to Patrick before, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to step out on faith. I'm just going to approach Patrick and be like, listen, I'm a health coach, let's talk about it. And so I am so appreciative of you because you were so open right away. And I will say I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous because I hear the stories and, and you see the responses. So I just want to say I'm so thankful for you being open to speak to me at that point. And then as soon as I contacted you for this event, you were right on board. So thank you for your story. You're going to bless somebody and it's going to be good. Calvin Mack. Brother Calvin, the floor is
Yes,
yours.
sister. How
Tell me
you
your
doing?
story. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Listen, I was listening to the gentleman, and I found it quite interesting that everyone goes through basically the same thing, but everybody don't talk about the same thing. One of the things that I found that digital rectal exam had no effect on me because my prostate never, ever showed any type of enlargement, any nodules, any lumps, or anything of that nature. It always remained smooth and normal size. However, what happened with me? Well, a little backstory. Both my brothers had prostate cancer, so it seemed like it was almost inevitable for me to get prostate cancer. They're both older than I am. However, back to the examination. the examination showed absolutely nothing.
Mm.
And being in the military, we got that exam. Once you hit the age of 40, you got it constantly. You got it every year,
All
every
right.
physical. Moreover, I always wanted women doctors knowing that that rectal exam is coming, because women obviously have very small fingers. Nonetheless, I digress. The thing is that
It's all right.
the thing is that for year after year after year, it was the blood tests for the PSA which showed that I went from a 3.4 to a 4. And then they had me do the blood test again, and that 4.0 went back down to a 3.8. So it moved up and down. Nonetheless, the doctor said he's not concerned about that. He was concerned about the movement upward. So I went to get the biopsy, and the biopsy showed that I did have prostate cancer. Now, I had more than two opinions, and each opinion gave me the same option. They said no prostate, no cancer. As a layperson, I understood that, and that's what I thought. However, the radiation, it has a lower rate of recurrence. That's not what they told me. They told me no prostate, no cancer. So I opted to get the operation. And come to find out that with the operation, the return, the possibility of recurrence, biochemical recurrence, is basically the same as the radiation. But the radiation costs a lot cheaper than having it removed. So I took it as I was being duped into doing a more expensive procedure.
Mm.
The 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 removal of the prostate, you have a more likely chance of a biochemical recurrence. And with the radiation, I'm sorry, let me back up on that. You have a higher rate of metastasizing recurrence with the operation. Whereas with the radiation,
Mhm.
you have a higher risk of death. So they tell you to opt in to whichever one that you decide is best for you. And they also consider your risk factors, your age, your health, and so forth and so on. I think I was diagnosed in 2021, August, and I had the operation um, January 7th of 2022. My PSA was at 0.04 for 2023, for 2022 and 2023. Then in 2024, it went from 0.04 to 0.06. So they wanted to watch it. Then it went up to 0.07 and it continued on moving upward. However, they said that's not a possibility of recurrence. I didn't understand. If you have a PSA that's rising, why would they say that it's not an indicator of reoccurrence? Now, right now, my PSA is at 0.14. They say once it hits 0.2, that is an indicator of recurrence, biochemical recurrence. So the possibility for me that I am going to have a recurrence is high in my mind. So it's a mental thing that's been bothering me. And they seem like they're very nonchalant about the possibility. But in all actuality, the PSA is going back up.
Mhm.
So I don't know what y'all would assume in your minds, being lay people, such as myself. Would you consider this here as being a recurrence, a biochemical recurrence? No matter how they say it, I just don't trust, with all due respect, doctors, because it's like they're working for return customers. If I'm cured, there's no reason for me to return to them. However, Yes, I'm seeing them every 3 months right now, where I had went from uh every 3 months to 6 months to a year, back down I'm every 3 months again. So um that's the basis of my experience at this time. And hopefully that has give you an idea or a possible insight on making that decision on which procedure you'll have done, either the removal of the prostate or the radiation therapy. For me, if I would have known, I think I would have made a different decision.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing, Calvin. You touched on something about the healthcare system, right? In terms of how we view our healthcare providers, which I think is so very important. And I almost want to say that it's one of the main elements that makes or breaks the decision, if you will, for men to to really jump into taking care of their health, or to just say, I'm not sure, I'm not going to do it because I don't trust you. And in the Black community, we cannot ignore that that's real. And that goes back to in history. And that goes back to all the experiences that we've had. So that's something that even today we may have some of the best healthcare systems in place. In our community, I believe, I'm going to ask Will Battle to also jump in on that. We cannot ignore that that is real, and that's something that we have to consider. Even we as women, as wives, as sisters, as mothers, when we talk to our men, when we talk to you all, that it's easier to say, just go take care of it. But all these things play a role. So the mental health part is also very important. So on that note, I wanted to ask Will Battle, thank you so much for being here. And Calvin, thank you so much for sharing your story. Will, please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Dr. Scott, and thank each you guys that have shared this for, and I'm eagerly as excited to hear what the other three guys have to share. But you're also correct. This is something that this is nothing that should be taken for granted.
Mhm.
This is nothing to kind of toy with or procrastinate, because hey, this this disease is taking Black men by storm.
Yeah. Yes.
And if you don't believe me, just look at the data.
Yes.
I cannot tell you how frequent men reach out to me about being newly or recently being diagnosed with this issue. Hey, and just to give you some idea of how widespread this thing is, early on, Dr. Scott, you were sharing about you were having a conversation with men and you was doing some reading and you were seeing how vast this disease is. Well, I'll be honest with you. When you look at on a global scale, right, worldwide, Black men, Caribbean brothers,
Yes.
African brothers, we struggle with this issue more so than any other male racial group.
Yes.
We lead the charts when it comes to this issue of prostate cancer. And the unfortunate thing is, if we're not getting ourselves screened, if we're not educated to the fact there's going to be a continual loss for high incidences of mortality. I mean, we have the highest incidence of mortality. We're diagnosed more and we die more from prostate cancer than any other male racial group. And that's in the world. And if you think it's bad here in the United States, you should try talking to my brothers in Africa. It is a huge, huge issue among us. Even locally here in Maryland, when I started my research years ago, Maryland, there's 23 counties in the state of Maryland.
Right.
And Prince George's County had some of the highest incidences of mortality of prostate cancer in the entire county. One of the more affluent areas, counties, one of the more income in terms of income base in the state of Maryland yet. And I'm talking about people that had access to health care. yet we still had the highest numbers of incidences and mortality than any county in the state of Maryland. And what I've found over the years that the willingness to get screened is our greatest defense against this stuff. If we're not getting ourselves screened in order to determine if in fact there is prostate cancer, then we kind of take ourselves off of that field of play and we allow anything that's suspect to happen to us happen. When we get caught up into those mindsets and those behaviors that don't allow us to go out and get ourselves screened, we do ourselves, not just ourselves, but our families and our community, such a disservice. Because I've heard one or two brothers mention that, this routine exam, a routine exam is how they found it. But what that says to me, if we're not getting ourselves screened, and especially as it relates to the guidelines, then we kind of give this stuff an opportunity to kind of maximize on us. And it takes full advantage of us. And then it becomes, even though the issue may be confined to a man or to a male, it still radiates beyond that. It becomes a family issue because now the family has to be and see and watch and struggle and see what the male goes through in treatment with this. But if we would just kind of get in our minds to get ourselves screened so as to be able to eliminate what the possibilities could be, because in a lot of cases it may not be prostate cancer. It could be benign prostatic hyperplasia. It could be BPH. Basically enlarged prostate. In some cases, and then oftentimes, there's conversations about, it being asymptomatic. You may not feel anything, but this is what I have to share with men. If you're urinating normally, as you usually do, and then years later, you notice that there's something going on with your urinating, and if you're getting up, if you're going to the bathroom several times throughout the course of the night, if you notice that there's hesitation in your stream and all those kind of things are going on, some may have it, some may not have it. But I am saying those are indicators. Those are indicators that something is not normal, So those are indicators. So if it's not normal, then those should be reasons why. Even more so, why we should be getting ourselves screened and going to the doctors and engaging in that kind of thing. And so I'm going to yield the floor because I want to hear what the other gentlemen have to say, Dr. Scott, and then
Sure.
I'd love to chime in some more if we have the time.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to begin by saying my name is William McCoy. And for those of you who do not know me, I'm, among other things, been in consulting since the 1980s, 40 years, in fact. We're celebrating our anniversary. I'd like to just begin by thanking and congratulating, actually, all of you who are involved in this particular endeavor because, believe it or not, there was a study that was published in February of this year that said that Black African American men, Black men like us, our cohort, our group, are twice as likely to survive cancers, particularly this cancer, as we were 30 years ago. So our numbers have improved dramatically. This whole business of detection, of diagnosis, and of treatment, the message has gotten to us. The message has come home, believe it or not. And this is just one more example of how we're spreading that awareness. Now, Calvin Mack, who's in this presentation, runs an organization which does prostate awareness. And one of the things that I told Calvin, we talked about this and actually had a conversation with his group, was that his presentations inspired me to the point where I went back to my doctor and I said, look, doc, we've talked about this diagnosis, we've talked about detection, we talked about what can we do for prevention. I've heard that an ounce of prevention is worth like a lot. So what can we do about prevention, doc? My doctor was all over the place. He was hemming and hawing, non-committal. I said, Doc, look, this is not helpful. How many explosions, let's just call them that, how many explosions do we need to have a month, Doc, in order to stave this thing off? He kept on all around the barn. I finally nailed him down, and he gave me an actual number of explosions per month for men that will help us as we move forward with prostate prevention. Now, I'm going to give you the number, but before I do that, I want you, if you've got that chat feature in here, to type the number that you think it is in the chat. How many a month? You just type your own number in the chat, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you my number. I don't know if I'm getting anything. Okay. There's somebody. All right. Come on, fellas, help us out. Let's go ahead and do this thing. We'll move on. 5 a.m. Sam. Okay.
I'm not going to put in the number because we
That's
discussed
up
it.
to you. If you choose not to, you can put NA. That's
Yeah.
all right. I want you
Yes.
to, I do want you on the record. Put in NA, Cal.
All right.
I see 10, 16,
Nobody else got a guess?
200.
All right, come on, fellas. I'm gonna give y'all 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and the number was 14.
All right.
My doctor told me 14 explosions per month will help me with prostate prevention. What do y'all think about that? 14 a month. Sound like a lot? Don't sound like much? I had
No,
a
it don't
fellow
sound like
today told me, he said, that sounds like a lot. I
that.
said, well,
Don't sound like a
it's
lot to me.
only
Don't
7
sound like
doubles
a
a
lot to
month.
me either.
That's only 7 doubles a month.
Like my man Nate said, you ain't taking 8 away from me.
But the point is we need to have some dialogue about all this. Now, I had an individual came to me and said, you know what? All this talk about sex. I'm like, isn't prostate like sexual health related or something like that? I said, you have to go back to the beginning. I heard some brother talking about the Lord Jesus. Well, in Genesis, as you know, Adam and Eve were instructed when they left the Garden of Eden to do what? That's right. Be fruitful and multiply. Do you know that that same command was repeated to Noah and his children? Same command in Genesis 9:1. Be fruitful and multiply. So there's nothing wrong with being fruitful and multiply. There's nothing wrong with the idea that we ought to have some goal out there, some number that we ought to be striving for as individuals, that we need to be holistic in our approach to health. Now, there'll be people out there that say, you know what, I don't believe that at all. I disagree, it's something else, whatever. And for those folks, what I would say is simply this. Change is a process and not an event. The first step in that process is awareness. The second step is investigation. The third step is commitment. So if you have said, you know, what did you just say? Awareness. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to come up with a better number. I'm going to come up with something else. That's investigation. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to share that with people. Commitment. You're already at step 3 of the change process, whether or not you even realize it. So that's all I'm going to share with you right now. I don't want to bore you all.
Thank you much, man. That was impressive. I like that.
That was interesting. Brother Tyrone,
Okay. Praise God.
thank you.
Give an honor to God. My experience with prostate cancer, I started doing PSAs when I was like 43. I'm 71 as we speak.
Praise God.
And everything was good. Numbers was good. 1.2, 1.3 for years. When I got about 58, the numbers started fluctuating, 3s and 4s. They said, well, maybe you got an infection. They put me on medication. They went down. Make a long story short, 2 years later, like I said, I'm 73. 63, I did a biopsy, had a couple of spots. Took 14 samples. 2 spots was showed cancer. So they said we're gonna do active surveillance. I didn't understand why we wait and doing active surveillance. I couldn't understand why we just can't get this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 years later, 64, it went from 2 spots on the biopsy, 14 samples, to 4. From 50 to 60, I already knew what treatment I was going to do. I did my homework, talked with several men, so I already knew which way I was going to go because I felt like this thing was coming. In 2021, it was from 4 samples to 5. So it was time to do something, they said. No more active surveillance. It was time to pick the peach. The peach was right. So I did the radiation. I had the seeds put in the prostate. Well, when they do the radiation, the seeds will light up and let them know exactly what the prostate was. And it was 23 rounds. And I had got as high as 11 because we knew it was a cancer. And I did the radiation 2021. The first 6 months, it went down to a 3.3. Next 6 months, it went down to a 2.4. And the last 2.5 years, it's been at a 0.4. So we moving in the right direction, and one day at a time. And I just, I exercise, I watch what I eat, and I do what I do, and life is good. So, I started getting, like I said, PSAs in my early 40s. Also, started doing colonoscopies in my late 40s. So I do what I need to do, and I try to educate myself the best I can how to take care of myself. And like I said, I'm 71, healthy, no medication, life is good. Oh yeah, they did just put me on cholesterol pills a couple of months ago.
What a testimony. What a testimony. Well, Battle, I'm going to ask you to chime in again.
Thanks, Dr. Scott. I appreciate that. So I've been taking a few notes here. I'm a note taker, so I kind of like to stay up on stuff, whatnot, what have you. I just want to stress the importance of certain things. The PSA and the digital rectal exam are certainly the gold standard of testing right now, according to multiple urologists. Although there are some issues with the PSA in terms of specificity, in other words, determining measuring what it should be measuring and that kind of thing, but it's still considered like the gold standard. The digital rectal exam, as all you guys know, I mean, and according to several urologists that I polled, is probably the more accurate because they say it's their first introduction to the prostate. You know what I mean? And typically, and you understand how that prostate is shaped. There's 3 lobes. There's a transitional lobe, there's a central lobe, and then there's a peripheral lobe where most of the BPH, as you get older, most of the prostate tends to enlarge is in that transitional lobe, whereas around the peripheral lobe is where you find most of the cancer. And that one of the most dreaded tests is because of the amount of time that the urologist has to kind of spend in terms of in the rectum trying to feel that peripheral lobe of that prostate. But you oftentimes have to say, hey, listen, would you prefer to kind of take a little less than 1 to 2 second exam, or would you just prefer to allow this stuff to kind of happen to you, and you just allow it to just take over your system and just kind of devastate you as well as the family. I was listening to Brother Khan, and he talked about that finasteride, and as it relates to something that you were taking. But sometimes when you take that, it can also cause the PSA to be a little bit higher than normal when you're taking finasteride. And so when you mentioned that, that really brought something to my mind. But this is what I want to ask the brothers. Are you guys familiar with proton therapy or immunotherapy? I'm sure Brother Mac is probably familiar with that since you're doing the prostate cancer work. But are you familiar with proton therapy as well as immunotherapy?
Yeah, I'm not. That's something that I have not come across as of yet. A lot of the things that I've been looking at was the different radiations, the different methods, but that's something I haven't come across yet.
Yeah, that proton has been around for a minute. Well, actually, I was introduced to it probably around 2013. I was working on a project at Bowie State University. We were part of a historically black college, and we were funded through the Office of Minority Men's Health to engage research in our education in our communities around our campus. And at that particular time, Hampton University was the only proton center in the area. No Duke, no Carolina, none of those. I don't even think it was at Hopkins at that time. At any rate, proton therapy is based. It's it's still like radiation, but it's a more direct beam that is shot directly to the cancer site, as opposed to traditional radiation that goes in and just kind of destructs everything around it. With proton therapy, they typically put spacers inside of you in the body so as to avoid any type of reaction to the body parts. And it is one of the newer things out there on the market that is really showing some awesomely promising results with this thing. But again, the key to is just kind of getting screened early. And then immunotherapy, we probably heard of that years ago. They would speak of in terms of individualized treatment. But immunotherapy is based off the immune system now, and I'm just saying these because these are new. These are just like treatments that were happening 20 years ago. There are new treatments out there now that are so much better, less aggressive, and less harmful in terms of killing other body or organs in the body. But immunotherapy is kind of based off your own system. They develop things around your own system. There's one medication they call Provenge. And Provenge is designed immunotherapy where they go in and they'll take blood out of the immune system, filter it out, cleanse it out, send it out to this company in Atlanta, and they'll infuse it with this medication called Provenge. This stuff goes in and it's like a heat-seeking missile against cancer. And so this stuff is just awesome, among other things that are out there. And so and again, this is what makes this conversation so great, because you get to hear from every man's experience, but every man gets to share his story. And one of the things that I realized from this is information that really gives you an opportunity to develop questions, so that when you go to that urologist or whomever, you can ask questions from what you've learned, and it becomes this informed decision making between you and your doctor. So this is good stuff, and should have more of these. I can't thank you enough, Dr. Scott, for kind of pull this thing together, and thank you guys for making yourselves open and available, because a lot of times, as you guys may know, a lot of men may not be open to this.
Right.
When it comes to that prostate, that thing tends to be so closely related to a man's ability to have sex. The ED part comes into play. And what I found is anytime that a man feel that he's not capable of engaging in that department, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it, because it engages that situation, and that makes it difficult for them to own up to wanting to kind of be engaged with having a conversation, because it's like it just attacks their manhood. And it's so unfortunate that we have built our lives on thinking of that in that regard, and it becomes a situation where we categorize that as being the sexual part being more, not to discredit it, but it becomes more important than saving your life.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's so true. And thank you so much, Will, for all that information. And I do want to go back to that a little bit, but let's hear from Brian.
Hello,
Technology.
hello, everyone. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Name it Charlie.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So I just want to thank everybody that's on this session because all the information that I've been hearing here has truly helped me. Um, by God's grace, I have not been diagnosed with prostate cancer, but I have been getting my PSA levels checked since I was in my 40s. Um, but my numbers started going up in my late 50s. Um, and I started getting my checkups every 6 months, and the numbers just kept going up till it got to the point where I was at 4.28, somewhere around there. And the doctor said he wanted to take a biopsy. And at that particular time, I talked to my wife about getting the biopsy, and she was telling me about a procedure that she read about where the biopsy could be very risky. So I opted out. I did not get the biopsy. I did get an MRI, and from that MRI, the doctor, my urologist told me that everything looked good. Um, and the next time I had my PSA, my numbers started to go down a little bit. It's interesting because today I actually just came from my primary care to talk about my prostate because I didn't have my chart with my numbers on it. So I actually have my chart from 2023 to current, and those numbers have consistently gone up. So I think my next appointment with my urologist is probably next month. At that point, I will make a decision about what I will do next. And based off of the information I've been receiving in this session, it'll help me make that decision a little easier because some of this information that I was aware of, but some of the other information I was not aware of. And so it's really going to help me with that, especially with getting a biopsy. Maybe someone can give me more information about how that process is done and what's specifically involved. I mean, the doctor explained it to me, but you guys have had it, so you can give me a better understanding of what's involved with that. Also with the radiation treatment, if needed. But at this point, the doctors have not told me that I have prostate cancer. They just said I have an enlarged prostate. And I was on finasteride for probably a year, and it really didn't feel like it made a difference in my numbers when I was getting my PSA test because my numbers were still staying high. And of course, I was getting the side effects from that as well, from taking that medication, which I did not like. So the doctor actually, I mentioned all of this to the doctor about my concerns, and he said, well, as long as your numbers don't continue to go up, it shouldn't be a problem. But you're still going to be getting checked every 6 months, which I am. My last checkup was in March of this year, and I was still above 4. My PSA was still above 4, but it hasn't gone up any higher than that. So when I get my next appointment next month, I actually did a blood test this morning for that appointment. I will see where I'm at and go from there and see what I need to do. But another thing I wanted to mention is my dad actually had prostate cancer, and he also had the surgery for the prostate, which is another reason why I'm so concerned about making sure that I go to my checkups and make sure that everything is okay. My brother, I have not heard that he has any issues with his prostate. But as it was mentioned earlier, my cousin Patrick is on the line here. Some of my other cousins have mentioned that they have had issues with their prostate. So it's something that, as we know, the numbers are high for us in general. But when you start hearing about your family members getting in, having these things, and you're like, wow, this is close to home, And so I just wanted to thank all of you for all of your input because it's helping me to make better decisions when I talk to my urologist. So thank you very much.
And I'm going to ask you to share some of your experience with Bill was talking about when you're urinating and you see something changing and how
Yes.
you shared with me how you saw those changes and what happened and how you saw improvement actually and what happened there and when you saw improvement.
Yeah, when let me see, I think probably in my late 50s, I started seeing and feeling the difference in my urine pattern because I was getting up more in the middle of the night to urinate. And then when I would, like the doctor told me, he said, if you ever have to urinate, go immediately. Don't hold it. I said, okay, but that's not always easy to do because I might be in my car or might be out or whatever the case may be. And I noticed that if I had to hold it, and then when I finally get to the bathroom, it just didn't want to come out. And I'm like, what is going on? This is crazy. So I make sure now that if I have to go, I just go. But I also noticed that I have an improvement because in situations where I've had to go and I've had to hold it, I'm talking recently, like now, when I go to the bathroom, I have a full stream, no problem. So I can only assume that that's an improvement. And that's based off of, I think, my lifestyle, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm plant-based, so I don't eat meat or try to stay away from any animal products. Kind of hard to do in the United States, but I'm trying. But those things have seemed like they help. There are still times where my stream hesitates when it comes out, but it's like I don't feel like I'm emptying my bladder, right? So I'll go and whatever comes out, and then I'll go do whatever I'm going, and then the feeling comes back again. I go back to the bathroom, and it more comes out, and then I go finish what I'm doing, and then again I have to go, and then my stream comes, right? So it's like gradual, you know. So I'm looking forward to going back to my urologist to see where I'm at as far as my PSA numbers because I have no idea where they are right now, but I feel like I'm doing better.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Brother Brown, how long have you been plant-based?
Let's see. It's going on 4 years now.
4 years. And you say you have noticed a difference in your nighttime.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. So, Dr. Scott, I mean, I don't know how much more time we got.
We have time. We have time.
But is it possible that you can share a screen? I want to show something about the prostate. Is that possible?
Yes.
Are you guys open to seeing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're talking about this benign prostatic hyperplasia. And one of the things that I like to do is kind of illustrate, well, what exactly is going on. Because oftentimes when you go to a urologist and you have those symptoms like Brother Bryant was sharing, you just a question answer session you go through, but there's not necessarily a visual. And I just believe that, it's important to take all the medical terminology out of it.
Yes.
And oftentimes engage something that can be more direct, something that's simple as a picture, right?
Yes.
So what I'm showing here is so as we age, right, the prostate tend to increase in size, right?
Yes.
Causing the urethra to narrow and decrease in urine. So if you look right here on my cursor, you see you see the bladder here, right? This is a regular prostate, and you see how the urine flows through the urethra freely and uninterrupted, right? But oftentimes, as we age, we can have an inflammation process or we can have an enlargement process to take place. If you notice a cursor where the prostate is inflamed, and currently right now, we don't really know. It could be some bacterial or something like that cause it to become inflamed. But if you notice the arrows on both sides of the prostate is pointing inward. So basically what that is saying is the prostate is growing, it's inflamed, and it's growing, and it is causing a narrowing of the urethra. If you notice the white arrows here, some is coming out, some is doing what? Going back, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we experience, like you were saying, Brother Bryant, sometimes it don't feel like it's totally empty because of what's going on right here. In this inflamed process right here. Some is coming out, some is going back. Over here on the enlargement, if you look here, you see that the urethra is totally collapsed, right? It's inflamed to the degree that it's totally collapsed. And so therefore, the urine is not even leaving. It's actually staying right in the bladder. So oftentimes here in the inflamed, you're squeezing, it delays, it takes a while before it comes out, but even in the enlarged part, it's not even coming out. It's flowing back into the bladder. So sometimes, so this is what's taking place when we're going through this process, um, with their prostate. Right here is what I was sharing with you guys earlier. There's 3 different zones, and this zone here is called the transition zone. This is about 10% of the mass of the prostate. What typically happens here in this zone is where the enlargement takes place in the transitional zone. When it takes place, it constricts the urethra. In other words, it constricts the opening of the urethra. So therefore, it becomes less opening and more of a problem with the urine flowing through. Again, typically this is non-cancerous BPH that kind of comes about when we're older. What we're looking at right here, this blue part, this is a central zone, which is probably a larger mass of the prostate. But right around here, this purple looking area is called the peripheral zone. And this is when the doctors, when they insert the finger, this is what they're feeling for, the peripheral zone, because this is typically what the cancer tends to develop in the peripheral zone of the prostate. So I'm going to stop it right there. I just kind of wanted to kind of show that to give us an illustration. I think it's better for us to understand and have some idea what exactly is going on, as opposed to not. Because oftentimes when you go to the urologist, they typically ask you questions and they treat you by what questions you give. Right. They don't take the time to give you an illustration of what exactly is taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to just take a second and give us a visual of what's happening, because a visual can give us a better understanding, and prayerfully, it will be one of those cues to action that cause us to go and get ourselves screened, because we know what's going on. But also it helps us develop a level of understanding, which becomes questions we can ask, and it engages that client doctor relationship that builds that informed decision making for you and your physician.
Yeah.
See, one of the things I find interesting, if y'all mind me chiming in, is that I had no symptoms whatsoever. Regular stream, no enlargement of the prostate. The only thing that triggered the investigation was my increase in my PSA. As far as urine stream, before and after the operation, it never changed. Nothing never did. It's almost like as if I was a healthy person. That nothing. I mean, like if I didn't get the blood test, they would have never known. My prostate remained smooth and normal size. I had no urine problems. And even at night, I don't go to the bathroom at night. Even now, once in a while, I'll probably get up once to go to the bathroom. That's if I've been drinking lots and lots of water before I go to bed. But outside of that, there's nothing. I guess it can be individualized. Everyone is not the same. So same thing with one of my brothers. He had no symptoms. The diagnosis came from his PSA, his prostate. Nothing was enlarged or anything of that nature. So it's interesting. All these things are interesting, but I think one of the primary things we have to focus on is getting checked, because if we're just going to go by the symptoms, like, hey, but if you get the symptoms, you obviously have to go. But because I had no symptoms, and they always say that we do not always go to the doctor. We go to the doctor when there's something wrong.
Yeah.
We need because no symptoms, I'm not going to the doctor. And this here type of thing can sneak up on you, and before you know it, you're in a bad situation. However, Brother Battles, real quick, can you put in the chat those different treatments? I got proton therapy. Now that procedure I have heard of, but I didn't recall the name of it. But if you don't mind putting in the chat those different procedures so I can speak with other brothers about it? I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, this is really amazing. And I think that we should talk about how we build action and community support. Well, we live in a 11,000 resident, 55 plus community. And we have so many of us who deal with health issues in general. And not to speak for the men, but I have heard too many men speak about having prostate issues. And one of the things I want to applaud Calvin for is that he was the only one that I heard of actually doing an event for prostate cancer awareness. And I think that while we often feel that, we're retiring or going towards retirement or, coming of a certain age, we then have to accept that stuff is just going to happen. I'm trying to figure out how can we get away from that and just understand that at this point, to me, age is just a number, but your health shouldn't be any more of a priority at 20 than it should be at 70. Because of the fact that we live in an environment where there's certain things we can control and some things we can't control. And so I often ask people, what would health look like if you were in control? And if we build community support, we can think about this question of what would health look like if I was in control? Do I do something because I now have a certain age, or do I just do something because it's the right thing to do to prevent things in the future? And in the United States, we don't necessarily talk about prevention as much as we talk about health care. You ask somebody, how is your health? They usually tell you about their health care. They talk about their access to health care, but not about your actual health. And your health starts before you get diagnosed or before you have symptoms. So if we can build some community action around this and help to sustain and increase the activities that we're already doing, then I want to propose that we invite Brother Will Battle to do another presentation with many more people in our community, because the information you have here, just that little bit that you showed, is so invaluable to give people, men and women. I'm the wife, and for me, it's like, wow, this is an eye opener to help, to better respond to what my husband brings home from the doctor. So it's important for everyone.
Well, we thank you, Bert. I'm sorry, Brother Harvey, go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, I got an appointment, but I would like to say something.
Sure.
It was very, very, very nice meeting everyone, and
Meet you too.
we learn from one another. It's like iron sharpening iron. And to your husband, Bryant, they talk about the biopsies. They're not pleasant, but I'm gonna tell you, those biopsies will tell you exactly what's going on. Like the gentleman Calvin said, no signs, this, the numbers were going up. See, and they said sometimes your numbers go up because you have sex 3 or 4 days before you have your test,
Right.
PSA. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they say the numbers go up because you have an infection. Mm-hmm. But the biopsy gonna tell the real story, what's going on, period. It was a pleasure. I got an appointment I got to make. God bless you all. And you're doing a wonderful thing, each and every one of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tyrone.
Thank you, good brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Dr. Scott, if it's okay, hey, I would love to engage presentation. I mean, we do this all the time. And
yes.
In fact, I was just down in, we do churches, I do my fraternity, I do, you name it, we do it. I do it. I think it's important. Again, like I said, for me, it's important to take all the medical jargon out of the conversation and engage in a very simple, safe space.
Yeah.
having conversations about this, keeping it simple, so that the ordinary layperson can kind of understand it. And that's why I engage a lot of pictures to kind of show brothers this is what's happening. We are just extremely well connected with radiologists, oncologists, and urologists. Beyond myself, I mean, we can get on board. But this is a conversation that should be continuously had, because prostate cancer is being diagnosed every day. Matter of fact, when you look at some of the data I got, every 13 minutes, a Black man is being diagnosed with prostate cancer. Okay. Wow. But it's not as bad as it used to be. But if we don't get brothers to the table and have the kind of conversation and educate, brothers will never know, because brothers are perished for lack of knowledge.
Right.
We'll do the clothes, we'll do the cars, we'll do the houses, we'll do all the other stuff.
Yes.
But we won't do the health stuff. You know what I mean? And so we kind of need to get on down, like Rick James used to say, bust out of L7 and get busy about talking about this stuff and engaging with this stuff and that kind of thing. And so, and like you said earlier, how do we do this? What we're doing today is how we do it.
I always say, when we share it in the community, we share it with our families, because we have our husbands, brothers, we have uncles, we have fathers, but we also have our sons. We also have grandsons, right? And because of the fact that the diagnosis, the prostate, the rate of diagnosis is not going down, and we have so many more people impacted, we also need to talk about our brothers at a younger age. Right?
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about it when we retire, when all of a sudden the symptoms start, or when we are, going to a retirement community such as a 55 plus community, because everybody here is not retired, but they live in a community of a certain age where we just assume that things happen because of a certain age, which has nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. I also want to follow up, because I believe that lifestyle is also very important. It's not necessarily about everybody eating the same thing. Genetically, we're not all the same, but I do believe that there are certain lifestyle changes that can also help us. So this should be the beginning of a movement. This is not just a one-time thing because of this month. This is something we have to continue. We just have to figure out how and what's the best way to do it.
Definitely.
So that everyone can contribute.
One point I'd like to add, if possible, when you talked about the fact that prostate cancer is happening to a younger group of people, I think that awareness has got to be, I think the wife has got to be engaged in that when we're talking about, young guys that are married, because the impact, there's collateral damage with this, and we need to try, in the process, trying to mitigate that collateral damage. Yes, we've got some information that we receive now, but it's being able to get that information down to the later generations, so that they can take the information and run with it. That would be a way of impacting the progression of one every 13 minutes. What was it? One man every 13 minutes or something like that. So one Black man, so that just a thought.
Yeah.
I agree. Bill McCoy, any final words?
Yes, yes. Detection, diagnosis, treatment, that's still the emphasis. That's all I'm hearing. Don't forget prevention, and don't forget support and aftercare.
Brother Calvin, any final words?
Yes, the primary thing, like what you said, young sister, Dr. Ludmilla is a doctor, and we have to listen to doctors.
I'm a
Not
public
all
health.
doctors, but at least Dr. Ludmilla. Yes, we have to address these things to our young people, because, like you said, age is not the factor that prostate cancer pays attention to. It pays attention to people's lifestyles, their genetics, and their family makeup, and things of that nature. So we have to be more focused on delivering the message and the importance of being checked, even to the younger people. I'm talking about in their 30s. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because you could wake up in the morning and all of a sudden there's a new statistic. So we have to stay focused and wake up other young people, our young people especially.
Brian, any final words?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Calvin just said, lifestyle change is huge. When we get older, our bodies don't function quite the same way they did when we were younger. So we have to be very careful in our lifestyle and also education. So knowledge is power.
Mhm.
So as long as we keep talking to each other about what's going on with each other, we can get that information out there and we can make better decisions.
Maya Angelou, the Dr. Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. On that note, I want to thank all of you. Be blessed. May each day be a blessing to you, and we will follow this through so that we can be a blessing to others. Thank you so much for joining us at the Hibiscus Tea Cafe. It is not too late to like and comment on our channel, and make sure you subscribe so that we can continue to bring you more valuable information. And until next time, take care of yourself. Health and wellness is yours.